show love. Being useful is serving the needs of others in whatever form. And that cannot be without love. And so, pure love is explained in 1 Corinthians 3:4-7, where we unselfishly, without regarding self, look deeply into what makes others to be at ease. Being genuine and not finding fault, but wanting to make others feel a little easier and comfortable. That's true love. And being easily forgiving and forgetting, and seeking even to make less the pain of people who oppose you. That's love. In 2 Timothy 2:21-22, those are the things that makes a person a useful vessel. A person who is peaceful. Peaceful with himself, peaceful with others. For as much as it depends on you, live in peace with all. Always seeking to resolve acrimony and trying to bring people together and to resolve confusion, to avoid confusion. And therefore, not, encouraging talk that bring division, but rather always trying to bring harmony among people. And a person who calls on God with a pure heart. All of these things, just summarize, means that we have yielded ourselves to God. In humility. You cannot be a useful vessel in the house of God if you first do not see yourself as little before God. When you begin to see yourself, I am a trained minister, I am the minister, I am the elder, I'm a deacon, or I have accomplished financial wealth, I am more resourced than everybody, I am very educated. When you begin to see yourselves in that light, you will not be a useful vessel. But when you yield to God and you are cleansed and you pursue righteousness, love, faith, peace, as Paul admonished, then you are marking out and showing the evidences of a useful vessel in the house of God. That's the first thing. But there is a second, characteristics that shows that we are useful vessels in the house of God. A person adequately prepared and equipped with skills and resources and ready and willing to serve. And we can see this in 2 Timothy chapter 2 verses 15. And I would want our eloquent, you read so eloquently in the Twi language. Please read 2 Timothy chapter 2 verses 15 for us.
Timothy huma etusu ebienu ti ebienchemu dunum no. O se bomodin fa ho gina Onyankopon anim se nea ofata se odwumayeni a ehia se ofere na okura nokwasam numu pepepe. Amen.
Amen. Do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a workman who does not need to be ashamed and who correctly handles the word of truth. Now, this is being prepared. This preparation. Being prepared, being ready, being competent. We had earlier on looked at different areas of service. Teaching, service, encouragement, philanthropy, generosity, leadership, singing, visiting. In its various, each of these, prepare yourself. So a useful vessel first yields to the will, the sovereignty of God, and then prepares himself or herself adequately. So you are a useful vessel, and it shows evidently when you are adequately prepared. Adequately prepared. So in all the different ministries, prepare adequately. Is it teaching? There is a tendency for those of us who repeatedly do certain things to take it for granted. So my very revered ministers of the gospel, you will just appear to the congregation without much preparation, and you want to speak from experience. Prepare yourself adequately. Whatever you are doing, prepare yourself adequately. And this preparation is not just only the preparing before you come to do it. Acquire skills and resources that makes you competent. You are helping in the financial ministry, the financial administration, then acquire some financial skills. You are helping in the counseling ministry, then prepare yourself adequately. Okay, I am taking intelligence that the soul is willing, but the body is weak. So, with the greatest of respect to all of you, can we stand? You stand for a few minutes whilst I'm talking before you sit. Yes. All right. So, please sit. I'll handle that. Please sit. With the greatest of respect again, please stand. With the greatest of respect, please stand. You were not listening. All right, please take your seats. All right, thank you very much. It is very important that we prepare ourselves and equip ourselves with skills. You see, everything that we do is not new. And there are better ways of doing. There is always a better way of doing the things that we do routinely. The way we eat, the way we sit, the way we visit even the washroom. There are best ways of doing it. And you will never know until you deliberately learn and prepare yourself. Okay? So, most of us want to be useful vessels. We want to serve. And we are using our energy, and we are very enthusiastic and very zealous. But we are not doing it well. Why? Because we have not prepared and equipped ourselves with the current state of the art techniques and skill, how to do that thing well. There is always a better way of doing, and people have researched over and over again and have refined better ways of doing things. So, in all our churches, can we deliberately send out these brothers and sisters who are always serving, whether in children's ministry, youth ministry, women's ministry, benevolence, finance, administration, visitation? Can we? And that's what in the Western cultures, they learn how to improve these things and they do it better. Can we do the same? Rather than using our energy and zeal and enthusiasm, which is good. But if we add to our zeal, skill polish from deliberate preparation and, equipping ourselves appropriately with the desired resources, then we'll be better vessels, be useful vessels. So we should have adequate knowledge in our area of ministry. And how do you get the knowledge? Go out and seek the knowledge. Here at Heritage, through Heritage Bible Institute, that's one of the things we want to do in service to the church. We want to be a platform using research and academic resources that are available to equip people with the skill set required for different areas of ministry. Will you avail yourself for that kind of equipment? But a useful vessel is shown out as having adequate knowledge in your area of ministry you have chosen. Adequate understanding. Okay? Adequate understanding of how things work. I discover the more I read and the more I visit a number of different congregations, I begin to discover how little my understanding and with humility I dare add the understanding of the majority of us. I've had the privilege by the grace of God to visit congregations in many different other continents and to observe the way they do things. And I come to the conclusion how little my understanding is. Just realize that my understanding of things is so little. And yet, I reflect back and I see how I defend my little understanding with a lot of pride and enthusiasm and resist any attempt to bring more understanding and more knowledge. I would want to encourage all of us, let's open up and reflect more to deepen our understanding. Because a useful vessel is well equipped, better understanding, and possessing adequate skills. A skill is how to do something. Sometimes we speak and we can't do. So are we able to do things and not just do it skillfully? When you watch football and you watch Lionel Messi and the skills and you compare to another player, you see they are different. So there is a way to do something better and nicely that you can only do by repeated practice. And of course, God gives us all gifts. And when you have a gift in a certain area and you practice and you learn, and if you see how much practice they do, when they put the ball and they play the penalty and then it goes this way and the goalkeeper dives the other way, we clap. It doesn't come from, it comes from repeated rehearsal. The people they select to play, they go through their training and they do it over and over again. And so they conclude that based on the repeated actions that you have done, when there's a penalty, you are the guys who will do it. Okay? So, to be a useful vessel, we must possess adequate skills to carry out the task in that ministry and adequate resources required. And this area it won't fall from the sky by accident. We can prepare ourselves to equip ourselves financially. If there is one area that the churches of Christ have a huge way to go in preparing ourselves for service, is equip ourselves financially. And it won't come by accident. It comes from deliberate preparation. So as a church, do you have a plan so that the next 5-10 years you would have members in that congregation well equipped? It comes from resourcing people to go out and work. So the young men and women, prepare them for the future and equip them financially. People have laid the foundation for their church, and that's why somebody told a story. One of the reasons why we struggle in this part of the world is because we are running the race of our fathers, the race that our fathers didn't complete. It's a relay. See, it's 100, 4 people run. So this one does 100, gives the baton to another, he continues. And the Western world, our contemporaries, their race have been run for them. And they are already ahead with an advantage. Unfortunately, our forebears did not complete their race. And we have to run back and pick the baton. Finish theirs before we can start ours. Can we begin to plan for the next generation of the church by deliberately creating people well resourced financially And if you go into our churches, you can count 1, 2, 3. And if there is any issue that requires financial resources, we will be watching each other. Can we resolve that? Equip people ready to serve. So as we saw here, when you read 2 Timothy, verses 2 and 15, when we want to be ready, prepared, not ashamed, and dividing the word of truth and being useful vessels, it means we must have good knowledge, good understanding, good skills, and good resources, financially, physically, materially. Then that is where you are ready, uncompromising, and prepared, and not ashamed. And that is a useful characteristic, or a characteristic of a useful vessel. A person who serves God and neighbor diligently and competently. Now, if you have this, then you've got to serve God and neighbor. The foundation that I laid, a vessel, the utility, or what makes it useful is the fact that you are available to be used to accomplish the will of God, or to glorify God, or God manifests His glory through the things that you do. So you do not do them for your own glory, and you don't see yourself as the one doing them, but just using the gifts that God has given to you to accomplish those ones. So you can only be a useful vessel when we see that you are really serving, and you are serving with humility. The fact that the financial needs of the church heavily relies on you, you see it as a blessing, and it is not an avenue for pride. That makes you a useful vessel. That's a characteristic of a useful vessel. And we have very few of such people. Can we cultivate more of such people who will serve generously and still remain humble and not perceive themselves as above anybody? That's when we say that you are a useful vessel, including those who can teach us excellently and explain things to us for us to have proper understanding. Here, sometimes we fight. Many of us who think that we have knowledge, superior knowledge, we want to fight for God. And anybody who has a divergent view, we confront and fight rather than logically explain our position and persuade, rather than being open to listen and to accommodate that view and to gently explain away to persuade. We confront and conclude that those who are holding contrary views to us have backslided, apostasy, right? A useful vessel is well prepared, but serves diligently and competently with integrity. So you are ready and willing to serve God and neighbor and not to be served. You are also diligent in your service. Diligence means you don't take what you are doing lightly. You pay attention to details. You are mindful of the repercussions of what you are doing on people now and the future. And there are positions that some of us will hold, which may be right and true, and it is different from the current position. But we approach it in a manner that is divisive and confrontational. That is not diligence. Diligence means you can sit through and observe something that in your view is not right, and yet you will tolerate it for a moment in order to accommodate peace. Remember, we've spoken about peace already. But then you will find a respectful way to so diligently explain and persuade, so that when there is a common understanding, then we can shift away, rather than pushing and forcing change that will trigger division. And that is what I see around our community. So, characteristic of a useful vessel. A vessel that seeks understanding, that seeks knowledge, that seeks skill, and that is equipped with resources to serve, and that's the service diligently, competently. Competently means doing it right, and you cannot do something competently if you do not have the knowledge and the understanding and the skill and the resources. These are the ingredients. You must first have knowledge, then understanding, then the skill, then the resources, then the humility to be diligent and competent and do it with integrity. Not to receive honor, but to glorify God. That makes you, so serves competently, using the gifts that have been given. And competence means use best practice. I had alluded to the fact that everything that we do, we are not the first to have done it. There are better ways of doing it. So can we humble ourselves and learn better ways of doing the things that we are doing? And can we be willing to sacrifice the resources that God has placed at our disposals and seize those resources not as our own, but we as stewards? So we are willing, to share those resources with others. Those are the characteristics of a useful servant. With the greatest of respect, can we again stand? Just with respect. It's still morning, and the sun is hot. So it's good to stand and sit, please. Sit. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak. If we read 2 Timothy chapter 2, verses 33 to 23 to 26, there it gives us some other dimensions of how usefulness of a vessel manifests. So I would want our senior brother again to read for us 2 Timothy chapter 2, 23 to 26.
2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 23 to 26. Na nkwase echinye a emfa wonfa insua ahwe no de gu efse wunim se ede okoba na ense awrade akwa bi se okon na mom esese ojo ma nipa nyina ohun kirekire obre ne bo ase bone ho na ode ojo kasa ekire won a won won di esi ensam se ebia onyampon bema won adwensakra akọ nkwaje mu akọ nokware hu na won ani so ato efi obonsan a wachire won se won ye nia ope no efrim. Amen.
Amen. Don't have anything to do with foolish and stupid arguments, because they produce quarrels. And the Lord's servant must not quarrel. Instead, he must be kind to everyone, able to teach, not resentful. Those who oppose him, he must gently instruct, in the hope that God will grant them repentance, leading them to a knowledge of the truth, and that they will come to their senses and escape from the trap of the devil, who has taken them captive to do his will. So, from this passage, and as I observe amongst us in our congregations, we need to take from here. If you want to be a useful vessel, it's a person who avoids foolish and stupid arguments, and for that, and by extension, avoids quarrels. When there are arguments amongst us that provokes quarrels, let's avoid them. In your zeal to be a useful vessel and to promote God, avoid quarrels. So avoid unuseful arguments. A person who avoids godless chatter, or profane conversations. So our conversation should be seasoned and edifying and encouraging. A person who is kind to everyone, including those who oppose him. But this is something very difficult to do. If you want to be a useful vessel, then we should be kind to everyone, including those who oppose us. And we have opposing views on certain doctrinal issues. And we are not kind to each other. We are not charitable to each other when we perceive ourselves as standing on the other side of the divide, as far as that view is concerned. And here it says also that a person who is not resentful. Resentfulness means you pursue anything to bring down somebody who is holding a view contrary to your view. And you say all kinds of negative things about that person. In fact, wishing that person to disappear. Praying for God's punishment for that person. When we do that, we are not useful vessels. This is from the Bible. So if we want to be useful vessels, then we should avoid foolish and stupid arguments. And then we should be kind to everyone and not to be resentful. Those who oppose us, we should engage in a logical manner, not fighting but seeking to persuade, because we are not enemies. It is when we do this and avoiding godless chatter, because it is ungodly to do so, then we are useful vessels in the house of God. The last one that I want to talk about, and we can open up, is, no, please, go back. Yes. The last one that I want to talk about, then we can take questions, is availing ourselves and taking responsibility for the things God has placed in our hearts. This is something very, very, very important. In your corporate organization, in your family, in your home, in the church, in any group that you are, God opens your eyes to see something, and you want to be responsible for getting that thing to be right. A useful vessel anywhere, that person who takes responsibility for fixing things that God has placed on his heart to get fixed. That is actually the foundation of being useful and wanting to get things done. When you have the spirit of saying, this should be fixed, but you do the fixing with humility, taking responsibility, and being mindful to be diligent, not to create unintended consequences, and doing it competently because you have the know-how, and you have equipped yourself with the skills and the know-how to do it, then you become a useful vessel. Let us read Galatians chapter 6, verses 5 to 15. And that will be the last Bible passage that I'll read. Yes, Galatians chapter 6, verses 5 to 15.
Galati fumano ti enum entichemu dunum eko. Bacho.
Galatians chapter 6.
Galatians chapter 6, verse 15 downwards.
Verses 5 to 15.
Yo, 5 to 15. Me da wase. Ose na obiara besoa na nkasa na adesoa. Na nwa kyerɛkyerɛ. Ose na wo kyerɛkyerɛ no nsɛm no eneni a ɔkyerɛkyerɛ no mmom ne pa nyinaa mu. Ose na ɔkyerɛkyerɛ no mmom ne pa nyinaa mu.
But let him that is taught in the word communicate unto him that teacheth in all good things.
7 no, ose mo na da mo ho onyankopɔn won si na atwetwe if say na onipa gu no eno ara na obetwa nea ogu ne honam so no fi honam mu betwa prowe na nea ogu honhom no so no ifi honhom mu betwa da nkwa na mumma ye mre papa yemu na se yampa aba a ye betwa so aba nibre mu enti ye wo bre a efata yi mumma ye nipa nyina yiye ni titru no ene won a we gidi fifo 11 no muhu inchirawe akese a me ose muhu inchirawe akese a me de mankasa mensa me chiraw me bra mu yi dodo a wo pese won ani ye nyam wani mi ye nyam ohonam mu no won na Kristo Yesu asendua ho ta a won pese wota wonti wo hye mo se muntwa twetia na won a wetwa twetia ankasa mpo inni imra no so na mo wo pese mutwa twetia na nwa ahoahoa wo ho muhu omohonam so na me de empare me se mehwahoa me ho je yen Awurade Yesu Kristo asendua mu eno so na wonam abo wiase asendua mu ama me na wabo me nso asendua mu ama wiase na twetiatwa enye hwe na momroto yen so enye hwe na mom abode foforo na dodo a wonam saa kwan yi so no asundwe ni mo brohunu mra won ene Nyankopɔn Israel so na efine obi inhye mebre na meso Awurade Yesu nkama minipeduam. Amen.
So from this passage, a person who takes responsibility for things that God has placed in his heart and takes steps to resolve the issues and challenges around those things is a useful vessel in the house of God. So if you read the verse 10, say, so then, as we have opportunity, let us work that which is good toward all men, and especially toward them that are of the household of the faith. So when you see anything and you want to fix it right, for as long as you have opportunity to be able to take responsibility for something and to have it done, and if we have this attitude in our corporate organizations, in our churches, in our families, in our homes, that wherever space or corner I show up, I want to be responsible for getting things done right, but with humility. Not thinking that I am the only person who knows how to get those things done, but be mindful that I want to work in love, not, showing favoritism. That whole passage is about, Paul says, he doesn't want to be glorified except through Christ. So not seeking favor or to be seen, but wanting to fix things, to make life better for others. That is a useful vessel for God. So you identify an area of ministry and then position yourself in that area and take responsibility for ensuring that that ministry advances. That is a characteristic of a useful vessel. Or take responsibility to fix challenges regarding the area of ministry that you are interested. And then you mobilize the gift that God has given to you. Financial, material, physical, spiritual. You marshal those gifts and use them to the benefit of others. Those are the characteristics of a useful, vessel. So as I try to wind up, how do you become a useful vessel in the house of God? Well, I think we've discussed all of that already. Cultivate and nurture and develop to maturity the characteristics that we have mentioned. I've actually spoken about 4 characteristics. The first one is allow God to cleanse you. Submit yourself to God in humility. And when you do so, you'll be righteous, you'll be pure, you'll be peaceful, you have faith, you show love, and you are cleansed. Once that happens, try and equip yourself with the skills, the knowledge, the understanding, and the resources that can make you useful. Avail yourself with training. Number 3, avoid just engulfing yourself in controversy. And be humble, right? It is when you do those things that makes you a useful vessel. Number 4, take responsibility. Take responsibility for a chosen area of ministry and serve in that ministry diligently. So, be cleansed by God. Be adequately prepared and ready by equipping yourself. And let your speech be clean and edifying, and take responsibility. Those are the 4 characteristics. And so how can you be a useful vessel? Deliberately, purposefully, consciously cultivate, nurture, and develop to maturity these characteristics. And try to be useful, okay, in the kingdom of God. It's a deliberate thing. It is deliberate to you can make a decision that I want to be useful in the house of God. So it's a deliberate decision to make. It is not chance. You have to make up your mind that I want to be useful vessel. And this is the way I want to serve. So let's make that deliberate decision. And it requires preparation. Preparation to be equipped properly. Preparation to have the requisite skills. Preparation to have the knowledge and the understanding. Preparation to have the accompanying resources that can make you be a useful vessel in the house of God. So I will want to urge all of us to start to take steps to become useful in the house of God. And those steps start from the realization that we are the handiwork of God, created as his vessels. And so we should be receptive to his call to do his will. And let's take those steps to do that. So as I conclude, we have discussed the characteristics of a useful vessel, and it is my hope that a little light has been thrown on what we can do to become useful. By extension, we have also discussed what we can avoid in order not to be unuseful or to be not useful, vessels. Let's avoid the things that will not bring glory to God, some of which we have already discussed. My final word is, as was spoken to Timothy by Paul in 1 Timothy 4:12. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. This is an admonishment not only to the ministers, but to everybody, that let us not allow anybody to look down on us, but let us be examples. And let's be examples in our speech, in our conduct, in our love, in our faith, and in our purity. And when we do this, we are facilitating the accomplishment of the will of God. And we are doing things to glorify God. It is in so doing that we become vessels of God. So I would encourage each one of us to take steps, or we should step out, or step up and begin to take the steps that will make us useful vessels in the house of God. I'll stop here, and if we have questions, we discuss the questions. Thank you very much. Should I sit?
Yes,
or I should
take a
stand?
rest. Okay. Take some.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Tulik, for this insightful lecture. It is always good to have someone who is on from a preaching point, from a different profession. He's a church member. He's gone to church for many, many years. He's been reading, he's been sitting in the classes, he's been hearing the sermons, he's preaching some. But he comes with a different background. And he's speaking to people who are purely church leaders, preaching people. So he brings in some things that we don't realize for most times. And when we talk of diligence, he knows what we're talking about from his angle. And that helps us. Resources to do the work. Skills. We talk of carpenters, they learn skills. Yesterday we were discussing some. the new buildings that are being built, the way they roof them, their style. It's not like our old type, my grandfather's house. New styles, new designs. You go to some small piece of land and they'll put a house on it and you wonder, who made this plan? Who made this house? And that is what they do today. Skills. Do diligently. I'm most enthused about where we need to have patience for one another. When we have standing on two sides, they divide, different positions. Let's have patience for ourselves. Before we take the questions, we will ask Mr. Maxwell Anson to come and summarize this for us in 3. Maxwell, you are invited.
Union Mamachi. But your mitri no and your fancy. And your crobble tree, no more may grab him tree. And open your mete, if you papa, many a share, maybe bring doing money dinda. There be no catch there, director say, a tuba, no so on friends. Yadapa Hinasi, or share. Ne kasana se na ohya se okanebreo na nenti okanebreo no okire mu se onye sampakani na mum oye babu adesuani a ono nso guso esuade enti se orekasai memu ne se oye sampakani bia wakwadre ewo adwumanum eno enti hunesa Namum akwanya no wanya no pese oni enchene a wode ahye ne nsa otua so eka adekura mudi ade ho asem de no bi sese eyeden na odidin bebre eka ho ba ko oka ne se obonto ana se na mofre na hyen nsusyen sa ade bi a wode ne amagum na ema ho kwan ma wutumi de ko baabi Osan dan ho ko abode nyansa suam ne amofra no biology me de yo no de ba nipa hunam duam se muntin a ena mumui ebia emu ana moja fa ana de manipadua nsa na be ya ne amanso betuma akoso yie o kire no nso eye efi ho o wie no chese sa de bia waka ho asem nya no okwan benso ana onam a ebetumi aye niamapa ena be ye niamabon nso na niamabon ne de no kan se ne kan no aya na asefim wo mu kakra se wo wade koramu ade na wontumi mfa nya hwe na ne akoye se chance bia ye tonturowa ana se wayi namafim na edaba bi keke nenti onko ho bebre na mo beka ne ehu wo mfa so na o kire se ni nyinare mu se ne be ya no kwarekwan so den anuonyam se saade na ba wa kwan ma no nkire se wo so sen obia na ye wankasa ade na o ma ye hu se ba bia ye som no ni akyade a ye nsa kan se de be ye adwuma na hye Nyankopon anuonyam de a ne adekorade a ayeden esombo san ye saade a na teku motroso enti yenhye na girai enti obisese wo aname so ye adekurade a esombo ana eno de wankasa na yi huma wasom menso me yi me de ano ena ofi ho no obekire yense na etuso ebien Timothy huma etuso ebien tie ebien ni nchimadunu ba kon ekopem adunu ebien na okire sene enam so ema ye de sa ne yefim ana mpotam biara yewo ana twrodo bia mu a ye hye no ye bema adadidi ahye Nyankopon no anuonyam owie no ena osese ye be ye adekorade a esombode a ene sifis bia ye kenkan no yenye nipa ye bema ho kwan ma Nyankopon ebe ye den ebe ye nkrunyin na so ye nkrunyin dia na ne nsem bia mfata adwene hunu bia ensombo no yebetumi yi ni nyinaa eden afi akwan mu enu ansa na nyankopɔn no yebetumi de ayɛ adwuma ma ayɛden ayɛ na ɔde nsɛm bi ekeka ho sɛ Hebrewfo ma ti do ngikyem do Korintofo ma dikanti esia ne ngikyem edu wɔtwe sɛ yebɛtwe ho afi bɔne ho na ɔka sɛ bɔne no bi wɔ hɔ a ne yɛsoso nkoa ne yɛbɔdin so ahu sɛ adwamammɔ abɛnsɛm ne ne ɛkeka ho na nketenketen bi wɔ hɔ a no de yɛ ntaa nyɛ na ɔkae no wo a woda nyan ɔkae no ka ho anaa wankanka ho wo sɛ mu a moda monyan ɔmɛyɛ sɔre menkɛ sɛ mo nsɔre woduu hɔ na ɔsia nsɔre nti nam sɛ mu a moda monyan sɛneɛte ɛna ɔkyerɛ sɛ ebi wɔ koraa na wonam abɛɛfo akwan nkɔmmɔbɔ yi so afiri yi so wowɔ so hom koraa wo sɛ woadu nkran pɛɛ ne nyinaa yɛ adeɛ anyɛ dɛn ɛmfata na ɛnsombo ɛwɔ saa akwan no mu ɛfi hɔ no ɔka sɛ obi ɛbɛtumi ayɛ saa adeɛ de ahyɛ Nyankopɔn anuonyam deɛ a ɛne na ɛsɛ sɛ ɔma kwan ama nnipa nyinaa tena asomdwoe mu na ɔtena asomdwoe mu nso a ɛnyɛ sɛ ɛno nkutoo sɛ ɔwɔ dɔ sɛ ɔwɔ ahobrɛase ɛne nneɛma a ɛte sɛ ɔde yɛ adwuma ofi hɔ no ɛna ɔkɔ Timothy nhoma ɛto so abien nkyɛm dunum na ɔsɛ yi nyina siesie yɛn ho yie na nneɛma a yɛsiesie yɛ wɔ nsɛm nso no ɛsɛ yɛyi kɛkyɛ ɛwɔ mu kɛkyɛ na ɔsɛ wɔfrɛ no borɔfo sɛ skills so ahu enti na ɔkyerɛ sɛ wohwɛ Mercy a ɔbarima okura mmea din na sɛ ogyina park so na sɛ oyi kɛkyɛ a waa wo ho bɛduru sɛnea aprɛmto baako pɛ a wɔde to a wɔbɔ ɛto ɛyɛ goal no mu no sɛ wohwɛ sɛ ne ɔyɛ ne fa a enti sɛ yɛn dwuma a yɛyɛ no nso yɛnyi kɛkyɛ wɔ mu yɛnyi kɛkyɛ wɔ mu ɛna ɔka no skills no ɛnde ɛyɛ aborɔfo asɛm yɛnwu so ahu akyinyagye bi wɔ hɔ a sɛ mfamfa so mma yɛnyi ne nyinaa nto ngu na yɛmma yɛn ho kwan sɛ yɛne nipa no ɛbɛtena na onipa mpo a wɔpo yɛn no yɛmmɔ mmɔden sɛ yɛbɛtwi abɛn wɔn ne yɛnam kwan bi a yɛde nyansasua hu ɛbɛma wɔn nso yɛn nsa ayɛ dɛn aka wɔn ama wɔatwi abɛn yɛn na akɔyɛ sɛ ɛnam sɛ nkwasɛ akyinyagye no yɛkura mu deneeneen nti ɛtɔ da bi a na ntɔkwa bebree ɛyɛ dɛn ɛwɔ yɛn mu sɛ yɛfie sɛ yɛ mpɔtam a meyɛ adwuma wɔ hɔ sɛ yɛ asɔre a mewɔ mu mpo ɛtɔ da bi a na saa nneɛma yɛ ayɛ dɛn asɔre owie no kɔɔ Galatofo ma tiasia nkyɛma num ɛkɔpem dumien ɛno na ɔde baa wie ma yɛhwia nneɛma bebree wɔ na obisae sɛ saa bere a wɔte hɔ a wɔtie no ɔkwan bɛn so na ɔnam a wobɛyɛ adekoramdi a ɛsombo ɛde ama Nyankopɔn ɛne obi ayi ano maa no ho ɛno nti ɔsɛ ne ɔka nyinaa ɔde baa wie a na ɔde gyina adeɛ anan so na ɛdi kan sɛ ma ho kwan ma Nyankopɔn ɛnyɛ dɛn ɛnhohoro ho ɔnsiesie wo ɔnyɛ okurinyin na ɛto so bio wankasa hyɛ wo ho den hyɛ waba mu den so ahu ɛna ɔsɛ equip menim sɛ twi no sɛ hyɛ wo ho den na wankasa nneɛma a woyɛ no woayɛ ne yie woyɛ de na mmom yɛ ne yie sɛnea wɔkyerɛ wɔ school goodness ana sɛ wofiri good a na wokɔ sɛ na wokɔ sɛnea ɛte fa na ama ɛyɛ wowie a nkwasɛ akyinyegye ɛne Nyankopɔn akwan ase a kasa bi ɛmfata no yi ho yɛ den ɛfi hɔ na ɛto so anan asodi a ɛda hɔ sɛ biribi atɔ sin na wobɛtumi ahyɛ mu kena no bɔ mmɔden sɛ wobɛyɛ den wobɛyɛ nhwɛ ne kɛkɛ na woreyɛ nso a fa ahobrɛase ɛne koma pa ɛne adwenemutew ɛyɛ ma ɛnyɛ den ɛmmoa nnipa nyɛ nti ɔde baa wie sɛ wɔnyɛ no kwa hyɛ sɛ wosi wo bo ɛsi w'adwene pi sɛnea wopɛ sɛ woyɛ wobɛyɛ no saa wowie no na ɔkɔɔ Timothy nhoma ɛto so ɛdi kan no ti abiɛsa nkyɛmu du ne sɛ mo bi mmu wo aberante a woyɛ ne dɛn abɔmfia nti yɛyɛ nsɛmpakafo yɛyɛ neanimfo yi mo bi mmu yɛ abɔmfia saa na metee ɛde kɔsi anuanom na asɛmpa ɛyɛ tie a mɛda mo nyinaa ase. Amen.
Thank you very much, Maxwell. Maxwell speaks good tree. All right. So, do not let anyone belittle your youthfulness. But we are old. So how do we say that one? That's the first question. Any questions for Professor Tulik to try to help us to have a better understanding of what they have said? Yes. So we take them in batches. A few, then we make them answer. Yes, sir.
Edayam Papa Obenfo Mapa Atulik ase. Sanso na Edayam Papa me papa kwapem ni ma nye bebre. Ma nye de. Enoso. Ya me show bebre. Prof, my question is on being patient when there is divergent opinion. One of the senior preachers, I understood it when I was at the Bible college. I won't mention names because we are live everywhere in the world. Told me, and I think I picked it up unconsciously. But Professor Tulik's presentation has really challenged my thought on it. He told me that he wasn't telling me I should do, but he told me that he has patience in his ministry as a minister. He has patience for people when they fall into, let's say, immorality. For example, if somebody falls into lying, he has patience to help you out of it. You fall into fornication, he has patience to help you out of it. Issues with your marriage, he has all the patience. But he does not have patience for people who have doctrinal differences. He doesn't have that kind of patience. So when you are in sin, he has all the patience for you for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years to help you come out of that sin. But when you have doctrinal problem, he wants to address it there and then, and he doesn't really have patience. I mean, he would tackle it head on and make sure he kills it and nips it in the bud.
One time.
And that thing has been with me. I am nearly 17 years since I entered into Bible college or completed. And apparently, I'm too young to be more than 15 years in ministry. I started early. But apparently, the same thing is with me. In my church, I don't have patience for people who have doctrinal differences with me. I feel that I always tell people that, yes, I always tell people that when you are fornicating, it is between you and the person you are fornicating with, and so only the two of you will be destroyed. But when you propagate any false doctrine in the church, you are crashing the whole 300 of us. So I don't have patience for you. But from his presentation, he's persuading me to drop that behavior. I want him to convince me more.
Yes.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. On the 4 different areas that talks about the characteristics, I want to dwell on the second one and then the last one that talks about taking responsibility and ask my question. The second one talks about understanding the ministry, having the skill, being resourced, and then developing yourself, preparing yourself, and then understanding what you are doing. If you happen to be the kind of person where your gift is coming from that dimension, I know we have structures in our church, in our churches as well. So there are limitations with the things you can do and the things you cannot do. If you want to be a useful vessel and structures are not giving you the opportunity, even though you have the understanding, you have the skill, you are resourced, you feel like taking responsibility to do things, and that opportunity is not coming. Until then, are you a useful vessel in the church or otherwise? If otherwise, then what do you do? Thank you.
All right. So, if you have the skills or you have all to do, and then the structure is not allowing you to do, are you still a useful vessel? Okay.
Thank you very much. My question is about the gifts in the house of the Lord. He mentioned prophecy, evangelist, and those things. My question now is, how do you or do we determine that brother ABC has the prophecy, or I am a prophet in the church?
You're talking about prophet alone?
Yes.
Only prophet.
That is where I have my challenge.
We will discuss that. I wouldn't want him to, maybe he can touch on it, but we wouldn't want to handle that one here. Okay? If it's prophecy alone. Yes.
Thank you very much. You are a vessel in the church being used by your master. How do you maintain your status as a vessel so that you will not be abandoned by your master along the line?
That's great. So we will answer to Statulik. Please try to answer this for us.
Well, I will handle it as a lawyer. I've told you already that I am not a minister of the gospel, but I'm a trained lawyer and I'll speak as a lawyer. Question from my very good friend and people with different positions. To read from the dictionary the meaning of resentfulness. One of the passages said we shouldn't be resentful. And so I am reading from the dictionary the meaning of resentfulness. Sorry. I had gone there and it's asking me to go back. Okay, very good. So, resentfulness, feeling or expressing bitterness or indignation at having been treated unfairly. He was angry and resentful of their intrusion. So, resentfulness means you become bitter and you express your bitterness because somebody who's you think that you have been treated unfairly or somebody is doing something that you are not happy with. When we read the book of 2 Timothy chapter 2, 23, 26, don't have anything to do with they produce quarrels, and the Lord's servant must not quarrel. Instead, he must be kind to everyone, able to teach, not resentful. And I place emphasis on that. Those who oppose him, he must gently instruct in the hope that God will grant them repentance, leading them to a knowledge of the truth, and that they will to their senses and escape from the trap of the devil, who has taken them captive to do his will. This classic on the issues that you are concerned about. One of the things that I have come to appreciate and I'm learning to see is not to play God when it comes to the Word of God, because we are not. Over the years, there have been a few issues that my understanding on those issues have changed. All right? I don't want to stir controversy, but my visits with a number of different churches of Christ, And the way, I used to think that the way to give is for us to pass those days it used not to be sacks. Over the time we have, I used to think the receptacle that collects the money has to be, because the way I entered the church, what I saw, if I go anywhere and they are not doing like that, I walk out. So this is not the church I belong to. Right? I went to a church in the US and I was waiting for the sack to come. It never came. And they mentioned the amount of giving, and it was amazing. Huge amount. So I said, but they didn't. The people are dropping their monies by whatever. People are placing money into account. Others are putting envelopes at the gate when they enter. Who am I to stand? And these are scholars, people who have also trained in the Bible. All right? Then I'll say, no. They are wrong. I'll fight them. Using that example alone, I have come to the point that in the church, when any of our brothers hold a view that is strange in my ear, I will hesitate slowly before I do a fight. What I would rather do is that I'll say, brother, your position is very interesting. I haven't understood it that way. Can you persuade me? And let's have a one-on-one. And things that I don't really understand, I don't ask plenty of questions. I used to ask plenty of questions on the floor of this thing. But when I don't understand and I have a contrary view, I'll rather engage you. And let's agree that it is not everything that we will come to one position. So there can be a situation where we will say, that is your understanding, my understanding is contrary, and then we will put it there. So as much as possible, just the way that my understanding on an issue has shifted about this giving, that people can give anytime. And COVID came and people were giving throughout the week. People are sending their money from their home, placing it straight into a bank account. Momo, we are doing that. Some time back, that was not something that we could do. If we were wrong on this matter, it is possible we could be wrong on that doctrinal matter which you want to fight. So don't fight. It doesn't mean that your position is wrong. Can you engage further in a more amicable manner? And when there is no conclusion, I have seen churches fight where police officers have been invited to come intervene. I think, to say the least, this is embarrassing. Are we God to defend? It doesn't come to that. So I would plead that as much as possible, don't be resentful to those who hold contrary view, and don't give them names. Let's sit and discuss. But you are very right. It is very easy for all of us, particularly those amongst us who are senior and who perceive to have better understanding of things. They think that their position necessarily is the case. You might well find out, and I'm a lawyer, and when you go to court, you can have very seasoned lawyers whose reasoning will be rejected by the judges. And we've seen several times that 5 judges sit on a case, it goes on 3 judges, it goes to appeal 5, the decision changes. It goes to 9 judges, the decision changes. So we are not God. We only explain our understanding for the time being. Things, your understanding could change. And I have had a reconsideration of a number of things based on my exposure. A lot of the time, we take positions without being patient to listen to the other side. So let's be patient and listen to the other side. The second one, when the existing structures do not permit you to apply your skill. And that is very possible. I have been privileged to become a member of more than 12 congregations because I move around. I'm always moving around, like I change locations very easily. And in a number of the congregations that I have been, if not all, a number of things in administration that by God's grace, because of the work that I do, I think that the way they are doing it, we could have done it better, which they did not understand it. Most of them did not see it that way, and I let go. But that doesn't make me to sit back and say, I will not. In my view, there were better ways we could administer our finances. Some of the time, people oppose it and say, no. This is church. This is not your company, wherever. Now let it slide. Because this is not a matter we should fight. So if the understanding by the majority is that, no, if you do it that way, it will create a problem. But I continue to engage. So, my brother, you continue to engage. You work within the structures and you gently help to change the structures. As a church, in the whole of the country, if you ask me as a governance practitioner, I think our structure does not support good corporate governance. And as lawyers of the church, we have had opportunity to air our views very gently. Not much has changed, but we are still in. These are not things that we'll go and fight. Do you see? So we will be gentle to persuade. Maybe at the right time, change will happen. But you don't get angry and say, no, if you don't change this one, that one, then you are not being a useful vessel. So work within the structure, work towards helping for the structure to change, but don't create division and confusion because you want to bring, change. I was in a congregation where the majority of members came to the understanding that we can give anytime we meet. A few said, no, we must give only on Sundays. My advice was that because we have a good number, personally, I don't understand why if I want to help somebody any day, or if I want to help the church any day, I cannot, personally. If you have a contrary view, forgive me, but that's my understanding. But for the sake of the few brothers who say, if you do that, it's offensive, you have apostatized, and we will leave. If what we are doing doesn't lead us to hell, can we maintain that? Just to accommodate everybody. Because unless it is the case that what we are doing, we are all dead. If we are not dead, and people say change will make them leave, can we? Some disagree. That will be my posture. My posture is that even when I am persuaded that what we are doing is not the best, but changing it is going to create division, let the status quo remain if it is not going to kill us. So that still is about being a useful vessel, is having a calm disposition to accommodate others, even when you know they are wrong. It's maturity also. We all grow, and when you see our elders, when the children are playing, my senior brother, I actually admired his tree rendition. He said we should, if we are coming to insult somebody, we should say, Sebi. When our elders see that, Sebi, we are doing foolish things, they just sit and smile and look at us and look at these children. But they know that what we are doing is foolish. Do you see? Because they have been there. That's maturity. And they still allow us. That's the same thing. God sits up there and looks at us, the way we are behaving, the way we are. No, this is not this. Then he's laughing. Oh, these are my children. Matters that we shouldn't fight about, we fight about. And it has implications on the way we move forward. And we now create different factions when we should not. On the day of judgment, all of us say, oh, things that we have taken so seriously, we will only discover that these are not the things that we should. The thing that should be taken seriously, the purity of life, how we can serve people, how we can make things better for others. how we can soften those things. We don't fight about them. We don't do them, and we don't fight to do them. The things about you have to take the Lord's Supper only on Sunday, not any other day. They are the things we fight about. I think let's work within the structure and accommodate others, even when we know that we have a superior position. But let's gently engage, and maybe in due time it will work. How do you determine who has what gift, when specifically about the gift of prophecy? Let me be very plain to you. As a student of the Bible, I still don't have proper understanding what the gift of prophecy is. And I'm still researching. If we can engage, you might deepen my understanding on that. But what I can say is that all of us have different gifts. And I did mention when I was talking that let's not focus on only the things mentioned by Paul. Anything that you can do to bring glory to God, to make life for neighbor better, to glorify God, to accomplish God's will, is a gift. Focus on that gift. It is not about teaching. It's not about benevolence. It's about anything that you can do. So, are you able to prophesy? Do you even understand what that prophecy is? If you don't, what? And let me take this liberty to humbly plead with our ministers. It is not too difficult for ministers and people who are in ministry, always teaching us, to get to the point where you think that the man of God is the one who is teaching. The man of God is the one who does God's work. The one who visits the person at the hospital is a man of God. The one who feeds the people who are hungry is a man of God. The one who takes care of the needy is a man of God. The one who ensures that the church is properly governed and administered is a man of God. The one who stands to teach us is a man of God. So you see, so we tend to give more preeminence to some things and less eminence to other things. And that's why we will fight about prophecy and tongues and all those things. If we are sincere to ourselves, are you really able to prophesy or to speak in tongues or whatever? Why do we pretend? So let's do the things that we are easily able to do. And there are plenty of things in the Bible I don't understand. I try to see if I can, and as much as I try, people explain, including some of our ministers. I listen to them, but I conclude and say, you've done your best, but to be honest with you, I still don't understand. And we will continue to search. Maybe one day God will be merciful to give us understanding. One of the dangerous things that we should avoid is to take our understanding as the only and therefore condemn others with different perspectives. It's a very dangerous position to take. The more you learn, the more you then begin to realize that, this was not the only way we could have explained it. And then you will be caught by your own past position. So let's be slow to, be very rigid about prophecy, tongues, those things. If you don't understand, you don't understand. Do the things that you understand. And I think God will be good with you. How do you maintain your status, the status of your vessel? Continue to do what we have said. Allow yourself to be in God. Let God cleanse you. Be very humble. If and whatever, continue to pray and do those things and remain humble. To take responsibility over the area you have chosen to be in service and avoid ungodly chatter. You don't play God. God can let the stones and trees defend him. Okay? So don't say you are the ones. God thinks that what we are doing is wrong. He can open the earth and we all be swallowed by the earth. It is not you saying that, no, this is anybody who doesn't agree with this that God. Okay? I'm not saying abandon your position. I'm saying that until you are persuaded, you keep your position, but gently engage others about your position, but accommodate others and treat them as your brothers. So if you continue to do this and continue to pray, then you will maintain your status as a useful vessel in the house of God. All right, I understand that there are some questions online. So, Prince, kindly read the online questions for us.
So, from our brother Emmanuel Kwete, he said, "Thank God and thank you, Prof." His question is, talking about useful vessels, how can we become a useful vessel when we discuss our differences on social media? Is there a way this can be stopped? Question 2, again, some of our leaders are so isolated, and is there a way the word autonomy can be well explained for we the members to understand to promote usefulness of the vessel? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You see, the different generations have different platforms for communicating, for transporting. The language will be different from the language. At the time the Bible was written to reflect the then world. Okay, so the media platforms that prevailed then were the ones reflected. It doesn't mean that life will not change. The world is not standing still, it's changing. So there's nothing wrong for us to discuss issues in social media. I don't think there's, if we are engaging civilly, as with seasoned language, there is nothing wrong for brothers to disagree on a matter if we disagree amicably, in love. If my understanding on a matter, we shouldn't pretend. We shouldn't behave like we are hypocritical. If I don't understand a matter, or if my position is a certain way, I should not be ashamed to explain my position, but I should do so civilly. I should do so not provocatively. I should do so with love and not condemning others. So I don't think that there is a problem if we engage a discussion or a debate on social media. It's all part of advancing knowledge. The problem is when we do so in acrimonious manner. That's the problem. And we start insulting and then throwing innuendos and just now judging others. So that those who don't hold your view are judged. They are going to hell. But who are you to tell who is going to hell or who is going to heaven? Okay. So that's the issue. The issue is not about the platform for the debates. The issue is about the manner and the language of the debate, where we now start insulting each other. That one is not good, even if we do it in the church. So it's not just about the social media. The social media, they are platforms for conversation, and we can engage in conversation. This is this world. Many of us, when we were growing up, those platforms were not there. So this current generation, that is their means of communication. And so whatever their life is, they will communicate through those platforms. But let's do so civilly, not acrimoniously. But the word autonomy, I don't properly understand what the issues are, and I'm not going to pretend that I understand and start preaching something that I don't properly understand. If you ask, it's the English word. I have looked up the dictionary, and I have a few questions which are required to be clarified for me. I have not received those clarifications, and so I will not attempt to, go into a matter where my own understanding is not so clear. I'll leave it to the ministers of the gospel who have done a better exegesis on the matter and can better explain. But as an administrator, any institution that leaves itself divided, uncoordinated, is going to be weak. Good corporate governance, all the institutions that have done well, and this is a matter of strategy, have maintained a proper coordination. A family cannot stand when the family says that everybody does what they want. There has to be a figure that coordinates and brings everybody together in order for there to be a proper direction. And if you look at our social projects which advances humanity, we are not doing so well because there is no proper coordination. Whether that is Bible, whether that is biblical or not biblical, I leave that one for those of you who spend a whole number of years learning the Bible to explain. But I can tell you, as somebody who has studied strategy and who sits on boards, that if the church remains uncoordinated, you cannot have proper impact and influence on the social. If from the Bible perspective, that is how it has to be, so be it. But we have to understand that our social impact will be minimal until we are properly coordinated. I, however, do not know whether that is a matter that takes people to heaven or not take them to heaven. I'll leave that one for you to think about. All right, is there any more questions? Otherwise, I would want to thank you all for your attention. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Professor Tulik. You've done so much than we expect from you, especially how you handle the subject matter of prophecy and the things that we need to add up. There are small things that have more impact than the big things that we see. The small things, the good word you tell somebody, it shall be well. That alone is enough. I'll pray for you. And you pray for the short prayer. That touches the person's heart, and the person is taking out the trouble. And he goes back to him. I met this man who prayed for me. God listened to his prayer, and here I am. Amen. These are the things we talk about. Some of the things, yes, we're going to talk, and we'll find answers. Autonomy is one. But yesterday we said, because we think in our own closet and talk there, we don't think and talk together. That is why we have the challenges. COVID has taught us so much. He mentioned some. COVID has taught us so much. What are we learning from COVID to progress? What are we learning? Let's think of these things. Thank you for sitting up to this time. We will take 10 minutes break and then return to listen to the next lecture. And that will give us, we are coming back at 10 minutes after 11. So 10 minutes after 11, we are all gathering here to have the second lecture. You are on break. 10 minutes, yes, 10 minutes. 10 minutes after 11. It's now 10:59, so we'll give you 10 minutes after 11. That'll give you 11 minutes. Mr. Nkrumah.